It's your host that knows the most about nothing, Noah Christian Carr, baby. And I'm here to remind you that today's episode has adult themes and adult language. We at Over Yonder would like to strongly advise you that this may not be suitable for children. But this is an important lesson and an important information that we need to transfer about what's going on in today's top restaurants, I guess. I lost my train of thought. Sit back, relax, and enjoy Over Yonder. And looking. Okay, let me do the plugs real quick and get started. This episode of Over Yonder Presents Podcast is brought to you by Lucky Socks. That's right, Lucky Socks. I'm wearing mine. They are black with boxing gloves on them. They don't stink. You can sweat in them all you want, and they protect you. They keep you safe. When you go on a date, guess what? You need to wear your Lucky Socks. You don't need to wear socks with holes in them. Hey, kitty. Oh, my goodness.
Yeah, that's our cat, Mittens.
Hello, Mittens. I gotta do plugs real quick, and then I'll talk to you, okay? Also, provided by National Geographic presents hiking trail maps. Go to National Geographic and order your own vacation trail map. It has trivia, information about monuments and sites on the trail, and they make it specifically to the place that you're hiking and camping at. I just ordered 5. I have one for Mount Fuji that's coming in for my Japan trip to Japan. I have one for the Appalachian Mountains, since I'm going to be doing that next year. But yeah, check it out. Also, sponsored by Amazon.com. If you're not on Amazon, how are you living life? You can listen to podcasts on Amazon. You can order socks on Amazon. You can listen to music and buy food on Amazon. So, yeah, seriously. Get Amazon. Get an Alexa. I have an Alexa. It's great. I just, talked to her and asked her weird questions. I was like, Alexa, if we had, a gun in the room and had one bullet, who would you shoot? And then she'd say, sorry, I can't answer that question. It's weird. Anyway. Hey, kitty.
Sorry, I can't answer that. You're an idiot.
That's not very nice. All right, Chef. How are you today?
I'm great, thanks, Noah. How about yourself?
I'm okay. And I was supposed to, for Valentine's Day last night, we were supposed to go to a haunted house here in Asheville. But as you know, it rained like Hurricane Katrina Part 2 out here. So it was canceled. But also, who makes a haunted house
I was saying, who on God's green earth goes to a haunted house for Valentine's Day?
What's scarier than love, I guess?
I'm gonna go with it. That's not true.
Oh, you're such a sweet kitty. I have a cat myself.
She's great.
All right, Chef, tell us, where do you work right now?
So currently I work at Green Opportunities at the Southside Kitchen. So Green Opportunities is a really cool program in Asheville. Okay. We essentially are trying to help people get that second chance that they maybe have been denied everywhere else. Okay. So we have a childcare program, a construction program, and then the culinary program, which of course I teach in. I'm one of 4 chefs that teaches and works with students in the program. So we do everything from trying to provide them with basic culinary skills to helping find housing, food assistance, anything under the box of things that they may need, we try to help them with. So it's an amazing program.
That sounds great. That sounds real good.
It really is. And everyone there is truly dedicated to helping the people who we work with.
That's great. This is actually the first time I've heard of it. They have a program like that where I live, but it's usually generated towards children, homeless, and the elderly. My grandparents work in the elderly division, and they deliver food to the elderly. They can't drive anymore. It's called Meals on Wheels, but that's great.
Yeah, we work with anyone. I'm not sure about the other programs within Green Opportunities, right, but the culinary program works with anyone age 18 and up who needs to learn some basic work skills. We have students in our program right now that range from the age of 18 all the way up to mid-50s. Oh, wow. So it's a very diverse crowd and a diverse group of people, and we just have an incredible time, not only teaching them basic culinary skills, but also, soft skills, interaction, all those things that would make one more employable.
That's great. That's wonderful. So how long have you been working there now?
I've only been working there for a few months now.
Okay.
And I have to say it is by far the most rewarding job I've had in my career.
It always is, especially good charity work and teaching and stuff. I've learned from all my trips. Either when I lived in Argentina for a little while and taught there, and even when I did in Atlanta. Well, even recently when I was a preschool teacher, it's always rewarding. Not money-wise.
Well,
but
I come home every day now and I feel like, well, when you just work in a kitchen, when you're just a line cook or a chef in a kitchen, you come home and you get drunk because there's nothing else to do, and you're just generally exhausted, body and mind.
Right.
I come home from work now and I feel like I've done something, like real. Something that means something to someone other than myself. And that is a really incredible feeling that I wish I had, before now.
Now, you mentioned line cook, and this is part of the reason why we're doing the interview. You were a line cook, and you've been line cooks at some very top-notch places.
I have, yes.
Yes. Now, a line cook, this isn't like your regular restaurant stuff. This is like in the kitchen you have the different stations for different cooks. What position was you in it?
So I have been essentially every position that you have. So I can give you sort of an explanation of that if you want. So you sort of start at garde manger, which is salads, cold appetizers, and desserts. Right. So it's sort of considered cold side of the kitchen. And often that is where you'll start out. So typically, after that, you have the fryer station, which will sometimes include grill. So it's fry and grill. And then there's saute station, which obviously handles the majority of the output as far as entrees go. And then there's expo. And expediter actually does plating and ensures that all of the cooks that are on the line are staying on top of their task, making sure everyone communicates clearly, et cetera, et cetera. So that's a really cool position, a really fun position to work. And I have been in all of those positions at some point in my career so far.
So far, yeah. I actually worked in a top-notch kitchen for one day.
For one day? Wow.
For one day.
Why'd you only last a day?
When I was teaching, I didn't make any money. So I got a seasonal job at a really nice resort. I'm not going to drop the name out of fear. Like a red dot appears in my head. There's a sniper. He's talking about us. Take him out. It takes $17 in gas to drive to this place. And I worked there that one day. And it was the busiest day of the week. And it's a really expensive restaurant. Ridiculously expensive. Mm-hmm. And I only made $16 in tips. So I was like, it's not worth it.
Yeah, it can be, I guess now I've reached a point where I had sort of forgotten just the insane hours that it took me earlier in my career. I'm very young. I'm 22.
Right.
So, young by anyone's standards.
Well, for you to be that young and be so well-trained and accomplished in the cooking field, a lot of people don't realize, it's not like your mom taught you how to cook one day and then you just go, hey, my mom taught me how to cook, make me head chef. It doesn't
Well,
I
have to tell you, I can't, I certainly can't put all of that on me. I have to thank, the people who mentored me, the people who pushed me, through it. It absolutely, I come home and I don't just sit and watch TV. I read, I study, I keep myself on top of what's new and what's trendy and what's happening in the culinary world.
Well, you see, my dad, who's an electrical engineer, who's 50-something years old, he actually keeps taking classes. He's been taking classes since the 70s. I mean, that young spry fellow, probably early 2000s. I went in trouble for that one.
Yeah, I actually have people all the time who I guess maybe get frustrated with me because I like to say I'm multi-talented. If I don't know something, I will immediately find out the answer or how to do it. And I've certainly had some people get frustrated with me because of my mentality over that, and that's something that it's a personal challenge for me to consistently better myself and to be the best. And maybe people would consider that a bad quality because I'm being too competitive, but it's a personal decision that I have to make, and it's what I have decided to do.
Now, without saying the names of previous restaurants, we're going to say, you've worked there. They're You know, a lot of people when they think North Carolina don't think 5-star restaurants, but they are. They are high class, especially in the Asheville area. I mean, Barack Obama lives here, guys. This is a big town. Like, calm down. Like, this is not like little cafes on the side of the mountains that hikers come in from. We're going to talk about the issues that you've had working in some of these restaurants. Okay. Now, what a lot of people don't realize that the main, and this is with research with me saying this, so don't say that I'm just like blowing something out of the water, that the main percentage of lead chefs in high-rated restaurants are male.
They are, yes.
That's right. And for a female to get to the position of lead chef is not impossible, because nothing.
Certainly not. There are several in this town who.
But the percentage is very small.
It is quite small, right. Comparatively, yes. And I have to tell you that when I first started cooking when I was 17, I was very discouraged by the thought that that I knew that particularly in the local area in North Carolina that there were so few female chefs, and I'm actually
it's less than 10%.
Yes, it is. I'm actually friends with several, and I have to tell you, just from me to you, that they are extraordinarily talented women. I certainly would not hold myself to the same standard. They're unimaginably talented women, and they're humble, and they just hold themselves to a standard that I would imagine some men don't comprehend, because they've destroyed it.
I definitely don't comprehend. I ruined warming up ramen noodles the other day. So, like, but just when I heard this, and not to be like old school, and I was like, why are all these men cooking? Like, and why aren't you giving the women like the job? Like,
it's actually
it makes no sense to me.
The assumption is, and I actually. One of my Facebook friends who is a line cook in Asheville posted about it this morning, actually. She is the lead sauté cook at a restaurant downtown. I won't say any names or anything.
Yeah, please don't.
But the table whose meal she prepared asked to speak to her, or asked to speak to the chef, and she came out, and the man, the host of the table, says, "Oh, did you make all the salads?" Just assuming, that she had been on the cold side of the kitchen, and that is the assumption, is that the women will stay on the cold side of the kitchen. I do happen to specialize in pastry. It is the thing that I do the most of, but I actually have a culinary degree. And it is very often assumed that I do nothing but pastry.
Right.
Which I won't say I take offense to, but it can become quite annoying when it's assumed that I can't do anything else.
It's almost like a stereotype, right? You go into, like, even that Disney World, and I censor myself, even though you could still hear what I said. You go into these, like, parks, these theme parks, and they have the sweet shops, or you go to, like, the resorts where they have, like, the cookies and the fudge shops, and it's always the stereotypical. It's the grandma, the mom, and their children, and maybe the son if he's being forced to work there until he moves out.
And it's actually designed that way.
Really?
In these corporations, some of the corporations, the image is that it's the generations of women who are sort of the home cook types, and then the old French stereotype is that the men are the ones who are the restaurant chefs. And so in some of these corporations, it's actually designed so that you see the image in the stereotypical way.
So they're tricking the people's mind. Yes. They walk in there and like, oh, look at this.
Like,
this
oh, look
hierarchy.
At this little family.
Yeah, like this food's going to be delicious because this family is there.
It's unfortunate that, I've actually had some chefs say to me that sexism does not exist in the industry, and I feel like for those male chefs to have said that to me, it said something about their character, because I actually was told by a manager at one of the first jobs I ever had that I was in a great position to give him a blowjob while I was scrubbing the wall. So if you're gonna tell me that sexism doesn't exist in the industry, when I heard those words and when I stayed on cold side for 3 years, that's a flat out just total misconception and misunderstanding of the industry.
That's misconduct, and it's along with sexism and sexual
assault, harassment. Yes.
Well, harassment. Yeah, definitely harassment. Like, if he assaulted you, it'd be different. You'd be lead chef because he'd be in jail. But it's harder to accuse because most kitchens and restaurants don't have an HR department. It's, I'm the head chef, I'm in charge, you come to me, but if I'm the one causing the problems.
And you know, there's often a boys club within restaurants. You know, it'll be the women are sort of pushed to the side while the men sort of have their management roles, and then the women sort of come in as they you know, have worked there for 10, 15 years. You know, it takes twice as long to get in those management roles.
Right.
Sometimes, and I've heard that from several women that I have worked with, and as I've stated, you know, these women are extraordinarily talented.
Of course. Now, the incident that happened prior, is that the reason why you left that restaurant when you were scrubbing the walls and he made a pass at you?
That was a huge part of the reason. Additionally, I also realized that I had been there for quite some time, and I felt like I had met the curve. I felt like I had met the learning curve, and I felt like it was time for me to move forward in my career. And I left, and it was with some regret that I left. I had become very fond of that particular place, and it was with some regret. But I still miss it to this day. I miss that.
But
job.
Like you said, you're making a lot more difference. You're making a bigger difference. It might be a different scene.
It is, yes.
But I think you probably feel better, and
I do.
Honestly, I think you're making a better difference. You're doing more for the community.
Well, I certainly feel that way. It's an incredible feeling to. So we serve at Green Opportunities. We serve lunch to the community 3 days a week on Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. Wednesday and Thursday from 12 to 1, and Friday we do brunch from 10 to 11. And it's an incredible feeling to know that some of the people who we're working with, you know, maybe wouldn't have eaten if we hadn't been serving them. And you know, if I may give you a little bit of a personal background for myself, I grew up not necessarily knowing where my next meal was going to come from. And so it's an earth-shattering feeling to be able to know that I'm making a difference in someone's lives when I, you know, as a child wished that someone could do that for me. So it's an incredible feeling, and I love it, every second of it.
That's amazing. Especially now that you're changing situations. Like, you were in that situation, and now you're going back to prevent it, which is always the story of the hero.
And I'm extremely passionate about it. I will do anything in my power to make sure that anyone who is hungry can eat.
Gosh. That kind of goes back to, like, colonial times where the cook was not just a cook who just made meals, but was in charge to make sure, you know, that they were in charge of supplies, that people didn't go hungry. It kind of goes back to the basic of survivalness, kind of like early man kind of situation.
And we believe very firmly in our program that everyone eats. We receive a lot of donations through, like, Manna Food Bank and other food banks in the area.
Wonderful.
And so, you know, if we have a student who comes in and says, you know, I'm hungry, I don't have any food at home, we actually will give them food to take home with them. You know, we all the chefs have been in the situation, and we are aware of what that feels like, and we don't want anyone to feel like that.
Of course. Now, to get back to your previous...
The sexism in the industry.
The sexism. So that's like the title. Sexism. Sexism in the kitchen.
So I'll actually talk about the most recent job I had before my current job.
Right.
I was there quite briefly for just under 6 months. And in my time at this particular restaurant in downtown Asheville, I advanced from sous chef... Well, actually from lead line cook to sous chef to head chef within about 3 months. So I was there for 6 months, and within being there for 3 months, I became the head chef. I was very fond of all of the people that I worked with there. However, the owner of this restaurant is an older gentleman in his 70s who has a very misguided mentality about women in the industry. he would actually, me being his head chef, whom he hired, might I add, would come up to me and tell me that I had no decision-making capability. And then if he felt like I had done something right, he would pat me on the head and say, "Good girl."
Now you didn't know him like beforehand.
No, I did not know him outside of my work there.
Right. So but it's not like an older friend the family hired or anything. No,
he had never. I'd never met him before. But he just demonstrated extraordinary, like really disgusting behaviors towards women. I actually, I will quote a server who, when we had a basketball team come in and eat one day, he told her to push her tits together and pour water on them and go serve the basketball team.
Why? Why would you even say that? Or are they going to order more food?
I think he thought he was being funny, like not realizing the actual implication behind what he was saying. But, as I'm sure you're aware, that's a really sort of disgusting thing to say, or even to think, really.
I've done a little bit of, like, everything, unfortunately. And it's really weird when bosses try to have that kind of relationship that even some of your closest friends don't have with you.
Yeah, I certainly do not have friends who would talk to me like that. And if they did, I think that they all are well aware that they would probably be smacked. You call your dog, you say "good girl" to your dog. You don't say that to a person.
Especially your employee. I mean, good Lord, it's 2018.
Your employee who's 50 years younger than you.
Right. Why in these small restaurants, family-owned or even chain fast food, that they have to show each other respect? What makes you think that just because you have your own, like, 5-star, like, private restaurant, that you don't have to show respect? Because you have more zeros in your bank account?
Well, Noah, I think that a lot of the stereotype is actually encouraged in this town, and while I think that is sort of dissipating and disappearing, I feel like for years it has been encouraged that, that the men are the ones who hold the big stick and the women just have to keep quiet.
That's
It's changing. Please understand that it's changing.
I was about to say, Astro is very progressive.
But it is changing slowly.
Right.
There are currently in this town, there's a restaurant, there are several restaurant owners who are being charged with sexual harassment, and of course they're all men. And certainly not implying that women don't do that, just implying that here it seems to be exclusive.
Yeah. Now you said that he was 70 years old. As you know,
70-something. I'm not aware of his actual...
Stan Lee, the Marvel Comics writer, is 90 years old. And I don't know if you saw the news article that he made a pass at one of his nurses.
I did not.
Now they're writing it off as... And it's kind of rude to say old people syndrome. As you know, when someone gets older...
he's older and he has a lot of money.
Well,
so...
Well, when you're 95, you might grab a few butts. You don't really you don't have much to lose, And everything was dropped, of course. We don't know if he paid them off or if the judge was just kind of like...
I mean, no, you have to know that they were paid off.
Right. But... Back to your case, the comparison I'm trying to make is like, you think it's kind of like that. He's just an older guy, and you think he's either losing his common sense, or does he feel like he has so much money that he could just do whatever?
We were all under the impression, all of his staff were under the impression that that he had dementia. Fidget with this.
Oh, okay.
But that being said, it's certainly no excuse to... when you pat me on my head, which, you shouldn't touch me to begin with, but when you pat me on my head and you say, "Good girl," like I'm your puppy, I'm thinking, okay, are you going to scratch me behind the ears now too and tell me to roll over? Or...
Yeah, see, that's really out of place, right?
Yes.
And even to be 70 years old, like, I don't know any 7-year-olds who do that. And that's not like a cultural thing, I feel like, at all.
I mean, I feel like it is an old white male thing. Just to be quite frank with you. It's a really disturbing set of actions that someone needs to justify, and you can't justify doing that, but somebody needs to deal with that. And I actually was at that point, after that happened, it was at the end of a chain of several events similar to that, and that is actually when I put in my notice. And when I put in my notice, they decided to fire me.
So they hired you and
the day that I put in my notice, yes. And it wasn't. It was a little bittersweet for me because I really was fond of the people that I worked with there, but it was a very emotionally unhealthy situation for me.
Obviously.
Because to be 22 and to be a head chef at a not fine dining certainly, but a well-known bar. And I had made huge changes to the menu. We started doing everything from scratch. It was, their business picked up significantly, visible changes.
Right.
It was sort of a good feeling for me to see that happen, and then to suddenly just feel like I couldn't do it and I had to leave was not a good feeling.
Now, a lot of people think that because a lot of stuff's seasonal, that turnover rate in the kitchen and almost in all restaurants is high. Now, does that have a lot to play into it, do you think?
The turnover rate in restaurants, particularly here, is very, very high.
Yeah.
Partially, that is because of seasonal work, but I would say that does not even hold a huge stake in the issue. The problem here is that people don't want to pay their staff. They want their staff to work 12 hours a day, 6 days a week, but they don't want to pay them to do that. They don't want to give them benefits, and then they want to treat them like just general shit. The whole time that they're there. You can't, people stay when they're promoted, when they're empowered, when they're paid well. And if you want to run a restaurant, you have to understand that no matter how much of a micromanager you are, you have to do those things if you don't want to be hiring new staff every couple of weeks.
Now, I'm just spitballing questions about current situations.
Yeah, absolutely.
And stuff. What do you think about our senator? I don't remember his name, but he's a ridiculous person. He's a ridiculous human being that we've elected. Saying that tips are racist, that we should do away with tip systems and waitresses and waiters in the kitchen should just be paid. So,
I have a lot of really strong opinions on that subject. So you will find in the industry that there is a strong divide between the front of the house workers, which are the servers, the bartenders,
right,
and then the back of the house workers, which are the kitchen staff. There's a very firm line often. Most of the time the kitchen staff feel like the front of the house make more money.
Well, right.
Because often they do make more money.
Especially when you're a very lovely female.
Yeah, and your tits are hanging out. Yeah, absolutely.
I wasn't going to say that, but yes.
But, I say that because I've seen that. And I would say that,
I've seen that,
particularly in North Carolina, well, particularly in the South still, there is certainly some racism and some sexism that is happening. And
I'll tell you the story in a second. Yeah, go ahead.
And, I would say that certainly in some situations, the tipping can be racist and sexist. And as much as we would like to think that isn't applicable to today's, to today,
right,
it is. Every single day it is. And that's a really disturbing thought to have, but I would say it absolutely is applicable to our industry.
I'm kind of, I can see where it could be, but then again, I know.
But I certainly do not support the bill to do away with tipping.
Right.
Our servers right now, I think they make $2.25 an hour, $2.13 an hour, and as I'm sure you're aware, after taxing and whatnot, they often end up with like negative paychecks, $0 paychecks.
Really?
That they're still going to have to pay more money back for not having enough money to be taxed. Wow. And if we did away with tipping, it would certainly even the playing field for front of the house and back of the house. But I also feel like that would cause more harm than good with the system that has been in place for so many years. People are going to fight back on that really hard. So.
The biggest thing is they thought at first it was a way to tax tips, because it's really hard to tax tips because you don't really know how much a person's getting.
That's not true.
Tipped,
I mean, it can be difficult, but if you have an honest employee,
right,
who is doing the right thing and reporting their income appropriately, but it's a very unfair law to be able to tax them as heavily as we do.
Right.
It's essentially stealing from, money that they have earned, right. To do it as heavily as we do, and I think it's not a good thing that we're doing. But I don't think that doing away with it completely is the route to take. I think that if we could make amendments to the current system, then we could talk about it. But certainly, my opinion can be taken as far as it can be thrown. It's not, necessarily the.
I mean, you're in the thick of it, and.
Well, that being said, I have never been a front of the house worker.
Right. Now, when you worked at places, did they share tips with the back of the house?
I have only worked at one restaurant where back of the house got tipped out. And at that restaurant, I believe the front of the house workers had the same starting pay as the back of the house workers. And then, you were promoted as needed. And then tips were divided based upon how long you had been there and your experience level and et cetera, et cetera. But that actually wound up being pretty unfair because we had a lot of workers, from out of the country come in. And that is actually one really cool thing about doing what I do is I've never traveled, but I've met people from all over the world. But we had a lot of workers from all over the world come in, and our front of the house workers would receive $2,000 or $3,000 tip out, while the cooks would receive $500 or $600. And this was a once a year thing. It was considered like a bonus, right. But it was based upon tips. And when you have back of the house workers who have worked 12-hour days, 5-6 days a week, getting a $500 or $600 tip bonus, and then you have front of the house workers who we would watch and laugh at while they played on their phones, getting $2,000 or $3,000. It was almost offensive.
It could be.
It was upsetting.
I'd be a little disgusted.
I can't say that I was pleased.
I know a girl who works at a house. It's a restaurant called a house, and they huddle at this house. Let's see what I did there.
I did see what you did there, yes.
And she's a very lovely lady. She probably makes about $500 a day in tips.
Yeah. What?
Yeah. She has her regulars, and as like you said, she's very blessed in the chest, and her bosom overflows with happiness, and
I feel like those are things we should not be saying out loud, Noah.
I was being polite about it. I'm just saying, it's like you said, they make a lot of money, and then not to share with the cooks who probably only make minimum wage. It's kind of
unfortunately, the fact of the matter is that oftentimes, in that situation, a woman will be tipped heavier than a male will, and that goes back to the fact that sexism isn't simply against females. It's actually, there's sexism against males too. And, people will think that sexism is strictly toward females, that a female can't do this and a female can't do that. And I've actually been told that there was no way I could do everything I said I could do because I'm a young woman.
I see.
Yeah. And that is a terrible thing to say to someone.
It really is, especially with you being so young and getting so far in your career, and you have nowhere literally to go but up, and then they try to put you down like that.
I actually, I have been featured in a couple, in a magazine. It was a couple of years ago over some pastry work that I have done.
And not to mention, I follow you on Instagram, and your recipes and food pictures are outstanding.
I have multiple certifications, food and business certifications, and I'm actually working on obtaining another one right now.
Nice.
Actually, two. My Lean Six Sigma Black Belt, which is a business certification, and I'm working on getting my Certified Sous Chef, which is American Culinary Federation certification. And, I've already been a head chef. Why do I need a sous chef certification? It makes your resume look really good, and you gain those skills from having done the actual examination.
It's kind of weird how you've done the job, but the work still wants that piece of paper.
Well, I certainly don't need it, but it just is something that I want. Actually, my coworker the other day was speaking with my students because I had a situation where there had been like some fairly serious disrespect towards me, and my coworker had actually heard about it, and he sat them down and he was like, look, Chef Amber, I don't like being called that, but it is what it is.
Chef Amber. Yes, chef.
It is, he said she's very young, probably younger than most of you, and he's like, but she's done more in her life than all of us put together. And, my coworker is quite an accomplished chef himself. But just to point out, my certifications and my awards that I have received was, it meant a lot to me, particularly since I had never told him about them.
So, when you said you've come through a lot of trouble to get to where you are, now you say sexism, and you think there's a little ageism with it too.
Oh, there absolutely is. Yes, I feel like because often I'm patronized because I am so young, and I'm not sure that being a woman has anything to do with that, but because I am so young, for a very long time I wouldn't tell my students how old I was because I didn't want...
you go in there with granny makeup on?
I didn't want anyone to know. And my coworker actually gave that away for me, and I wish he hadn't. But I've adopted my outlook on that, and that outlook is that when you're 22 and you've done everything that I have, we can talk. Until then, fuck off.
Wow. And there's the explicit label right there.
Beep. But I feel like there absolutely is some discrimination based upon age, and that isn't just towards people who are younger. It's also towards people who are getting a little bit older. And they feel like they can't function as well as someone who's younger. So just like with the sexism, there isn't actually a set group of people that this is against. It's just everyone's individual opinion about who can do what.
And that's such a beautiful way to actually put it. You put it very clearly, and yeah. But before I forget, I feel like this will tickle you. I'm starting to do a 30-minute segment every morning. It's just me talking. Good morning over yonder. Good morning Mountain Range or something. I hadn't named it yet. It's going to be something silly and ridiculous. I don't know why I want to put that down because I don't want to. I like fidgeting with this toy. I actually been to this restaurant. I'm not going to say the name.
Okay.
Which I wish I could. Because I would encourage you to eat there because it is the best.
Well, then maybe if it's the best, you should say it.
I'll tell you off mic. Okay. There's a restaurant in South Georgia, which is a seasonal seafood restaurant.
I do love seafood.
Okay. And they also do creek food, like catfish.
Okay.
It's very southern style seafood.
See, there's my issue with that.
So it's just everything's deep fried, basically. But it's good. It's very good. It's very Louisiana-ish.
Okay.
Now, the owners are...
Like Creole-esque.
Yeah,
Okay.
Now, the owners... It's their baby. It's their restaurant. They're from Alabama and Louisiana, and they opened it in Georgia on the coast.
Okay.
It's their baby. They can do what they want with it. So they thought it'd be a great idea how some restaurants serve bread when you come in. Hispanic restaurants serve chips and dip. Mm-hmm. They thought, let's put some southern shine on it. You get a slice of watermelon.
Oh, I love watermelon.
When you come in. While you wait for the food, you get watermelon. Now... That
has to get expensive for them, I'm sure.
Well, it's a very nice restaurant.
Because typically bread is, part of the reason that bread is sort of served is because bread is cheap.
Bread is cheap.
It's easy to produce, it's cheap.
Well, anyway, a black couple didn't accidentally go to the restaurant. They can go to the restaurant.
Yes, of course.
They took the appetizer being slices of watermelon the wrong way.
So it seemed offensive.
It seemed offensive, even though I understand where they're trying to come from. It's just like Southern.
Well, I do too.
But the restaurant is currently closed until after the lawsuit.
I think that, and as I said earlier, you can take my opinion as far as you can throw it.
Right.
But I think that, while racism and sexism absolutely are a huge problem still, it is absolutely based upon individual interpretation. Something that, my friend takes offense to, I might just laugh off, or something that I take offense to, you might just laugh off. So it's all about personal opinion.
Right.
And unfortunately, that is where the gray area happens, is that, with sexism and racism, there's no, forgive me here, but there's no black and white. It's all gray area. And that's why I feel like there are so many issues today, is because it's all about personal opinion.
I totally agree with that. I think hate can't be hate without hate. Racism is hate, right?
Absolutely.
So if a lot of people know the word racism gets thrown around a lot, and so does sexism. But I feel like if you're not doing it out of hate or ignorance, which I believe is a form of hate.
But I was going to say, I feel like here that is the primary issue, is just straight up people not having the knowledge to know any better.
Right. Well, ignorance is the hate of knowledge and understanding. So,
But I feel like it's unfortunate. But as I said earlier, here, and I don't know about other areas. I study and I can research all day long, but that doesn't mean anything at the end of the day. I have to go to these areas. And here it is absolutely, it's changing, but it's happening slowly. I actually have worked for female managers who didn't like, who behaved sort of in a sexist manner against me. Actually, my roommate and I worked at a restaurant together in Asheville.
Yeah.
And I could propose an idea and she would shoot it down, and he could say it exactly the same way that I said it. And she'd be like, "Oh, that's a great idea." So, that might be sexism on sort of a lower level, but it still is kind of offensive when, at the end of the day, when I'm like, okay, I definitely said that was me. And, at this point, I've reached a point where I don't feel like I need to be validated anymore. I'm comfortable where I am. I'm happy. And, of course, I'm not going to let myself get too comfortable because I want to keep moving on and moving up. But
I think what you're doing now is not only great spiritually, but a great practice point for you. Yes,
I certainly feel like I get practice not only with culinary skills, but also, I guess probably any of my friends would tell you that I lack people skills. My roommate just walked by and said, yes, she does.
You're doing great, though.
So I lack some people skills, so I certainly get that where I am. I'm just known as being very cold and blunt, and not really having a whole lot of emotional availability for the people that I work with. And unfortunately, that is the situation. It is how I am. But I am working on it and trying to...
Well, that when it comes to, work, you don't have to be too open, as long as you do the job, right?
Well, I certainly feel like I've adapted this outlook because of my career. I've become... I've made myself become that way just to shut out the drama, because, when I go home, I want to leave work at work.
Right.
And that was something I really struggled with for the first couple of years of my career. Was I would take work home with me, which is a very unhealthy thing to do.
Yeah.
And so now I can sort of, for the most part, I can leave it at work. Sometimes I'll come home and do an hour or two of work before I go out or something. But
it's hard. It's part of being an adult, I believe. One of my first real jobs, and I was a engineer and a machine operator at a factory, and I had an assistant who was also an operator. We were equal, but he was still my assistant for some strange reason. And we would get in yelling matches and fights. he was an older guy. He was like 42, 44, something. Like
That's not old.
Well, he was older to me. I was only 20 at the time, right? And like I would get so mad at him, but then when we clock out, he's like, "Hey, do you want to go get breakfast?" I was like, "No, I don't like you right now.
I hate you. What are you talking about?"
He's like, "No, that's clocked in."
Yeah, it
person
is.
Name, but
yeah, that is absolutely a thing that happens in kitchens. Is we can yell at each other and scream at each other and burn each other all day long. Oh, that's a thing. No, that's a thing.
All right.
But off the clock, it's different. We'll go get beer, and we will, chat just like we. Like on the clock never happened.
All right, so we want to slowly start wrapping this up. Is there any final words you would like to say?
Well, just I guess that I would really like to thank all of the people who have mentored me and supported me, and I certainly pray that they will continue to do so as I continue to move forward in my career. I certainly don't consider where I am my stopping point, more of a rest area. And thank you for taking the time and putting forth the effort to bring some of the issues that I wanted to discuss with you to light. I feel like it'll be really helpful.
Well, I think if it's not in our world, we simply don't think about it, right? So I feel like it's good for us to hear everyone's story. And that's what this podcast is kind of about. It started off where I just wanted to talk to people with weird jobs or interesting jobs. And now it's grown into like so much more. I'm talking to people every walk of life.
I think that's a really incredible outlook to have, Noah. I think that it's important to get everyone's story, not just the big guy at the top. And I really appreciate you taking the time to come here today and do that with me.
No problem, Chef. Thank you for being here.
Absolutely.
This is Noah Christian Carr. Follow me on Instagram at Noah Christian Carr, baby. Follow Chef on her Instagram at
Chef Amber Kate on Instagram and also on Facebook.
No, don't do Facebook. We don't do Facebook.
Well, I do.
I don't want stalkers on my Facebook. You can follow me on Instagram because it's easier. You can just look at my work.
Well, don't listen to him. I do both.
Okay. You can go to her Facebook. Stalk her. I don't care. That's mean. I'm nice. Be nice. Over Yonder Presents is on Instagram also, and we have a Twitter page, even though Twitter is of the devil and I don't like it. Yeah, that's right. I don't care that Twitter doesn't sponsor us. They can go suck an egg. Boom. That's what I think about
And that's
that.
how you throw shade on a podcast.
And there's that explicit. We're going to have that nice little E in the iTunes section right beside it. Like episode 1. Chef Amber Kate. E for explicit.
And I hope that everyone will follow me on Instagram and Facebook, and I look forward to hopefully meeting some of you in person.
Yeah. All right, let me do the outro, and you can go ahead and unmic, I guess. All right. As always, we're sponsored by National Geographic hiking maps. Yeah. Guys, I get paid by them if 1,000 people listen to this, but it has to be 1,000. So you got to make that happen. Also by Lucky Socks, they sent me some socks. They're sponsored them. Get the boxing ones. They're my favorite. They're really cute. All right. As always, this is Over Yonder. This is Noah Christian Carr signing off.